The music inside the wedding hall was loud enough to shake the crystal glasses on the tables, but the moment the black SUVs stopped outside, the entire atmosphere changed. People turned. Conversations slowed. Even the waiters paused. Kevin Adami frowned slightly as guests near the entrance began whispering to one another. "Who's arriving?" his fiancée asked, adjusting the diamond bracelet on her wrist. Kevin barely looked up from his phone. "Probably another politician trying to show off." Then the first bodyguard stepped out, tall, expressionless, black suit, earpiece. Then another followed, and another. The murmuring inside the hall instantly became louder. Kevin finally lifted his head. The back door of the last SUV opened slowly. A pair of black heels touched the ground. Then she stepped out. Kevin's entire body froze. Sonia, no. There was no way that was Sonia. The woman he remembered used to avoid eye contact whenever people stared at her. She used to hide inside oversized dresses and nervous smiles. But the woman walking toward the hall looked untouchable. Her bright navy blue gown wrapped around her figure elegantly. Her makeup was soft but flawless. Diamond earrings shimmered beneath the Lagos lights as camera flashes exploded around her. The hall doors opened wider. And then he stepped out behind her, tall, cold, sharp black suit. A dark, intricate tattoo curled from beneath his collarbone up the side of his neck before disappearing behind his ear. The whispers immediately changed. "My God, that tattoo? Is that Kang Min-yi?" Kevin felt his throat tighten. Because even in Lagos, people knew stories about Kang Min-yi, the Korean billionaire, the ghost investors feared, the man powerful enough to destroy companies without ever raising his voice. And somehow, Sonia was standing beside him. Min-yi calmly placed one hand against Sonia's lower back as they entered the hall together, not possessive, protective. Kevin's fiancée leaned closer. "Wait, is that your ex?" Kevin didn't answer, because Sonia had finally looked directly at him, and the smile on her face wasn't bitter. That hurt even more. It was calm. Like she had completely survived him. 3 years earlier, Sonia Johnson had believed Kevin Adami was the best thing that ever happened to her. Back then, she still laughed loudly without covering her mouth. She still believed love could survive embarrassment. She worked from a tiny fashion studio in Lagos, sewing custom dresses while Kevin built his startup business. Most nights, she stayed awake helping him organize presentations while he slept on her couch. "You know you don't have to do all this," Sonia told him one night. Kevin looked up from his laptop and smiled. "When I make it big, I'll spoil you for the rest of your life." She believed him. She always believed him, even when his friends laughed at her weight during parties, even when women stared at her with pity, even when Kevin slowly stopped posting her online. At first, the insults were subtle. "Look prettier if you lost a little weight." Then, "You should stop eating late at night." Then, "Do you know how important image is for successful people?" Sonia tried. God, she tried. She downloaded workout apps. She skipped meals. She cried inside dressing rooms after trying on clothes. But nothing was enough. And the more Kevin's business grew, the colder he became. The breaking point came during a luxury dinner party celebrating Kevin's newest investors. Sonia spent 2 days making her dress. 2 whole days, she walked into the restaurant terrified but hopeful. Kevin barely glanced at her. "You're wearing that?" he asked. Sonia's smile faded slightly. "I made it myself." One of Kevin's investors laughed quietly. Kevin sighed. "Can you at least try to fit the environment?" The table went awkwardly silent. Sonia swallowed hard. "What does that mean?" Kevin leaned back in his chair and then he destroyed her. "Look around, Sonia. Do you see the kind of women successful men marry?" Her chest tightened instantly. "Kevin, no, seriously, I've tried being patient." Humiliation burned through her body. "You're too comfortable looking like this." Nobody spoke. Nobody defended her. Kevin's voice became sharper. "I can't keep pretending it doesn't matter." Sonia stared at him like she no longer recognized the man sitting there. "Are you really saying this right now?" Kevin laughed once under his breath. "You want honesty? Fine. I'm embarrassed bringing you into rooms like this." Her eyes immediately filled with tears. One of the women at the table looked away awkwardly, but Kevin kept going. "The wedding is off." Everything inside Sonia shattered. She stood slowly. Her hands trembled. "You promised you loved me." Kevin looked irritated now. "I did. But love isn't enough when someone refuses to improve themselves." That sentence followed Sonia for years. She ran out of the restaurant before anybody could see her fully break down. Rain poured heavily outside, cars rushed past, and Sonia cried so hard she could barely breathe. By the time she got home, social media clips from the dinner had already started spreading. People laughed. People mocked her. Strangers debated whether Kevin was wrong for leaving her. Sonia stopped opening her phone. For weeks, she barely left her apartment. Food containers piled beside her couch. She ignored calls from friends, ignored her mother, ignored the world. Sometimes she stared at herself in the mirror and heard Kevin's voice repeating endlessly, "I'm embarrassed bringing you into rooms like this." One afternoon, Sonia's aunt from Seoul called unexpectedly. "I heard what happened," her aunt said gently. Sonia wiped her face quickly. "I'm okay." "No, you're not." Sonia stayed silent. Her aunt continued softly. "There's a fashion internship opening here in Korea. It's temporary, just 6 months." Sonia asked weakly. "You need a new environment." Sonia almost refused, then she glanced around her dark apartment. Every corner reminded her of Kevin, every memory hurt. So 2 weeks later, Sonia boarded a plane to Seoul with one suitcase and a completely broken heart. The first months were miserable. Nothing felt familiar. The language barrier exhausted her. People moved too quickly. The city felt cold. At work, Sonia avoided mirrors again. She convinced herself nobody wanted her there. But slowly, things began changing, not magically, not overnight, slowly. She started taking walks after work, then gym sessions, then healthier meals. Some days she failed. Some nights she cried. But for the first time in years, her changes were no longer about Kevin. They were about survival. One rainy evening, Sonia stayed late at the design studio before finally heading home. Streets were nearly empty. Thunder echoed overhead. Then she heard shouting. A man stumbled violently out of a dark alley, blood stained his white shirt. Another group of men rushed after him. Sonia froze instantly. The injured stranger suddenly grabbed her wrist. His grip was strong despite the blood running down his side. "Please," he said quietly. "Don't scream." The side of his neck became visible beneath the rain. Black ink, serpent scales, dark intricate patterns crawling toward his jaw. Dangerous, beautiful. Terrifying, the approaching footsteps grew louder. Sonia looked between the stranger and the alley. Then, against every logical instinct in her body, she pulled him toward her apartment building. "Come on." Later, the stranger sat silently inside her tiny apartment while Sonia cleaned blood from his wounds. Neither of them spoke much. The tension felt strange, heavy. "You should go to a hospital," Sonia whispered. "No hospitals." His voice was calm, controlled, but his eyes looked exhausted. Sonia carefully wrapped the bandage around his ribs. That was when she noticed the tattoo properly. The serpent intertwined with dark flowers and geometric patterns. It stretched beneath his collar like something carved directly into his skin. "You keep staring at it," he said. Sonia looked away immediately. "Sorry." Most people get scared. She hesitated. "I think you already look tired enough without me acting afraid too." For the first time that night, the corner of his mouth moved slightly, almost a smile. The next morning, Sonia woke up alone. The stranger was gone. Only one thing remained, a black business card. No title, no company name, just a name, Kang Min-yi, and a phone number. Sonia almost forgot about him until 3 days later, a black luxury car stopped outside her workplace. Employees immediately rushed toward the windows. "Oh my God. That's him." "Min-yi is here." Sonia frowned slightly. Then Min-yi stepped out, perfect black suit, expression cold, tattoo partially hidden beneath his collar. Every employee bowed slightly as he walked inside. Sonia stared in confusion. Her manager nearly panicked. "Mr. Kang, welcome." Min-yi ignored everyone else. His eyes locked directly onto Sonia. "You left before I could thank you." Entire room became silent. Sonia suddenly understood this wasn't just some businessman. This man terrified people. Min-yi stepped closer. "You saved my life." Sonia lowered her voice immediately. "What exactly do you—" Dangerous calm entered his eyes. Nothing simple. Sonia should have stayed away from him after that. Every instinct warned her to. But Min-yi kept appearing in her life. Sometimes a car waited outside her office after work. Sometimes expensive meals arrived anonymously. Sometimes security guards suddenly appeared near her apartment whenever she walked home late. At first, it frightened her. Then slowly, it didn't. Because Min-yi never demanded anything from her. He simply watched, quietly, carefully. Like he was trying to understand someone he had never met before. One evening, Sonia finally confronted him. They sat across from each other inside a private rooftop restaurant overlooking Seoul's glittering skyline. "You keep doing things for me," Sonia said carefully. Min-yi swirled the drink in his glass without looking up. "You saved my life." "That doesn't explain this." His eyes finally lifted toward her. "You didn't ask who I was before helping me." Sonia shrugged slightly. "You were bleeding." Most people would have run. Not most people either. For a moment, silence settled between them. Then Min-yi leaned back slightly. "You're the first person in years who looked at me without wanting something." Sonia looked away first, because the honesty in his voice felt too real. As weeks passed, Seoul slowly became less lonely. Minyi began taking her to places she never imagined seeing: luxury galleries, private rooftop dinners, quiet streets glowing with neon lights, designer studios. Yet strangely, the moments Sonia loved most were the simplest ones: late-night convenience store walks, coffee during rainy mornings, the rare moments Minyi relaxed enough to smile. Those smiles always shocked her, because they transformed him completely. One night they sat together beside the Han River while cold wind moved softly across the water. Sonia glanced toward the tattoo disappearing beneath Minyi's collar. "Does it mean something?" she asked. Minyi looked ahead quietly. "The serpent." She nodded. "It represents survival." Sonia hesitated. "The flowers." His expression darkened slightly. "People I lost." Something painful moved behind his eyes. Sonia realized then that beneath all the power and fear surrounding him, Minyi carried grief everywhere. Without thinking, she reached out carefully and touched the edge of the tattoo near his neck. Minyi immediately went still. Her fingers were warm against his skin. "Did it hurt?" Sonia asked softly. His eyes locked onto hers. "Not as much as losing people I loved." The tension between them changed after that, not suddenly, not dramatically, but undeniably. Minyi began opening up more, very slowly. He told her about growing up inside violence, about betrayal, about becoming dangerous because weakness got people killed. Sonia listened without judging him, and somehow that terrified him more than enemies ever had, because he was beginning to care about her, deeply. One evening, Sonia arrived home exhausted after work and found Minyi sitting inside her apartment. "How did you even get in here?" she asked. "You gave me the spare key 3 weeks ago." "Oh," looked up from the couch. "You forgot?" Sonia laughed softly for the first time in days. "I've had a stressful week." Minyi studied her face carefully. "What happened?" Sonia hesitated before speaking. "There's this fashion event next month. Big investors, big designers. My boss wants me involved." "That's good news." "It means cameras, attention, people judging how I look." Minyi's jaw tightened slightly. "Sonia." She looked down. "What if people still see me the way Kevin did?" The room became quiet. Minyi stood slowly and walked toward her. His presence alone always changed the air around her. He stopped directly in front of her. "You want to know what I see when I look at you?" Sonia swallowed hard. "I see someone who survived being destroyed by people too blind to recognize her worth." Her eyes immediately filled with tears. Minyi lifted her chin gently. "You were never hard to love." That sentence broke something inside her, not painfully, healingly. And before Sonia fully realized what was happening, Minyi kissed her, slow, careful, like he was terrified she might disappear. Sonia kissed him back instantly. For the first time in years, she didn't feel ashamed of herself. Months passed. Sonia's confidence transformed completely. Not because she became thinner, not because she looked different. Because she finally stopped hating herself. Her designs began gaining attention across Seoul. Fashion blogs posted her work. Luxury brands reached out. And every time success found her, Minyi supported her quietly from the background, never controlling, never possessive, just present. But danger still followed him. One night, Sonia attended a private corporate dinner with Minyi. The room overflowed with wealthy businessmen pretending not to fear him. Sonia noticed how everybody watched Minyi carefully. Like one wrong sentence could ruin lives. During dinner, one executive glanced toward Sonia dismissively. "This is the woman distracting Mr. Kang lately." The table went still. Sonia immediately sensed the shift in atmosphere. The executive smirked. "I expected someone more impressive." Minyi calmly placed his glass down. Nobody moved, nobody breathed. Then slowly, he loosened his tie. The dark serpent tattoo became fully visible along his neck. The executive's confidence disappeared instantly. Minyi's voice stayed calm. "You're still talking." Terrifying silence. The executive immediately lowered his head. "My apologies, Mr. Kang." Sonia stared at Minyi differently after that, not because she feared him, because she realized how much control he constantly exercised. A man with that much power could destroy anyone impulsively. But around her, he chose gentleness. Later that night, Sonia confronted him inside the car. "You scared everybody back there." Minyi looked outside the window. They were already scared. "You know what I mean." Finally looked at her. "That man insulted you." Sonia crossed her arms. "You can't threaten everyone who says something rude." A faint smirk touched Minyi's lips. "Yes, I can." Sonia rolled her eyes, then unexpectedly both of them laughed. It was small, soft, but real. And in that moment, Sonia realized she had fallen completely in love with him. A year later, Sonia's younger sister called from Lagos crying. "Mama's been asking about you every day," her sister whispered. Sonia sat quietly beside the large apartment windows overlooking Seoul. "I know." She wants you home for my wedding. Sonia's chest tightened immediately because Kevin would be there. Everybody important in Lagos would be there. All the people who watched her humiliation online. Her sister lowered her voice. Come home. The call ended. Sonia stayed silent for a long time. Minyi walked into the room quietly. You're thinking too loudly. Sonia looked up weakly. Sister wants me in Lagos for her wedding. And she laughed nervously, and Kevin will be there. Minyi's expression didn't change, but something dangerous entered his eyes, the ex-boyfriend. Sonia nodded slowly. I don't know if I'm ready for that. Minyi walked toward her calmly, then he held out his hand. Then we go together. Wedding venue in Lagos looked like something pulled from a billionaire's fantasy. Golden chandeliers glowed above hundreds of guests while expensive perfume and live music filled the massive hall. Kevin adjusted his suit for what felt like the 100th time that evening. His fiancée, Vanessa, leaned closer with a fake smile. You've barely spoken to me all night. Kevin forced a smile. I'm handling guests. The truth was simpler. His business was collapsing. 3 investors had quietly withdrawn during the past month. Debt continued growing, and Vanessa only became affectionate whenever money was involved. Sometimes Kevin caught himself thinking about Sonia, not because he believed he still loved her, at least that's what he told himself, but because nobody had ever cared about him the way she did. Vanessa touched his arm again. Relax. You look stressed. Kevin opened his mouth to respond. Then the music inside the hall slowly faded. Guests turned toward the entrance, and Kevin felt his stomach drop. The convoy outside had arrived. The doors opened. Sonia stepped inside beside Kang Minyi. Everything around Kevin became blurry for a second, because no amount of imagination could have prepared him for the woman standing in front of him. Sonia moved differently now, confident, elegant, like she no longer carried the weight of everybody's opinions on her shoulders, and Minyi beside her looked terrifyingly calm. The serpent tattoo curled darkly against his neck beneath the lights. Guests immediately lowered their voices. Some even stepped aside instinctively. Vanessa frowned. Why is everybody acting weird? One businessman nearby answered nervously. That's Kang Minyi. Vanessa blinked. The Korean billionaire. The businessman lowered his voice. Not just billionaire. Kevin's chest tightened painfully. Because Sonia looked happy, actually happy, not pretending, not forcing smiles, happy. And somehow that hurt worse than if she had come back angry. Sonia noticed him standing across the room. Their eyes met. For one dangerous second, old memories slammed into her chest. The restaurant, the humiliation, the laughter. But then Minyi's hand rested gently against her back, grounding her, reminding her she wasn't that broken girl anymore. You okay? He asked quietly. Sonia nodded slowly. I am now. Kevin finally forced himself to approach them. Vanessa followed immediately. Anya, Kevin said carefully. Hearing her name and his voice again felt strange, distant, like another lifetime. You look, he struggled to finish the sentence. Sonia saved him. Different? Kevin laughed awkwardly. Yeah. Minyi's expression remained unreadable. Kevin extended his hand nervously. Kang Minyi, it's an honor. Minyi glanced briefly at the hand, then slowly shook it. His grip was calm, controlled. But Kevin still felt intimidated instantly. Vanessa smiled brightly. We've heard so much about you. Minyi finally looked at her. I doubt that. Vanessa's smile faded slightly. Sonia nearly laughed. The tension became unbearable quickly. Kevin cleared his throat. So you live in Korea now? Sonia nodded. I do. Things are going well. Before Sonia could answer, another guest approached Minyi nervously. Mr. Kang, welcome to Lagos. Minyi gave a slight nod. The man immediately shook his hand respectfully. Then another businessman approached. Then another. Kevin watched the entire thing in silence. People treated Minyi like royalty, and Sonia stood beside him naturally, like she belonged there. For the first time in years, Kevin felt small. Later that evening, Sonia stepped onto the balcony outside the hall to breathe. The city lights stretched endlessly beneath the night sky. Her chest still felt tight. You disappeared without saying goodbye. Kevin's voice. Sonia closed her eyes briefly, then turned around slowly. Kevin stood near the doorway alone. No cameras, no fake confidence, just him. You ended our relationship in front of strangers, Sonia replied quietly. I didn't think goodbye mattered anymore. Kevin looked down. I was stupid. Sonia laughed once. You think? I was under pressure back then. That's your excuse. Kevin moved closer. I cared about you, Sonia. You cared about appearances more. Silence. Kevin rubbed his face tiredly. You have no idea how many times I regretted what happened. Sonia studied him carefully. For years she imagined this moment. Imagined hearing him apologize, imagined feeling victorious. But now she mostly felt tired. Kevin looked at her again. Did he change you? Sonia shook her head slowly. Kevin frowned. Then what happened? Sonia's eyes softened slightly. I stopped seeing myself through your hatred. That sentence hit Kevin harder than anger ever could, because deep down he knew she was right. Before he could respond, the balcony doors opened. Minyi stepped outside. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Kevin straightened automatically. Minyi's dark eyes moved calmly between them. Am I interrupting? Kevin forced a smile. No, we were just talking. Minyi looked toward Sonia. You ready to leave? Sonia nodded immediately. As they walked away together, Kevin felt panic rising inside him. Because for the first time, he realized Sonia truly belonged to another world now, and he could never compete with the man beside her. The next morning, social media exploded. Photos of Sonia and Kang Minyi flooded the internet. Luxury blogs reposted them. People debated her transformation endlessly. Kevin scrolled through the comments in silence. She upgraded. That Korean guy looks dangerous. Kevin definitely regrets this now. Stormed into the room angrily. Are you seriously reading articles about your ex? Kevin locked his phone immediately. You're overreacting. Folded her arms. She walked in with a billionaire mafia boss and suddenly you forget I exist. Kevin stood slowly. This isn't about you. Vanessa laughed bitterly. Exactly, it's still about her. She stormed out. Kevin sat back down heavily because she wasn't wrong. Meanwhile, Sonia spent the morning with her family. For the first time in years, laughter filled the house naturally again. Her mother held her hand tightly. You look peaceful now, she whispered. Sonia smiled softly. I finally am. Younger sister grinned. And your Korean man is terrifying. Sonia laughed. He's actually sweet. That exact moment, Minyi walked into the dining room. Everybody immediately went quiet. He paused slightly. Why did everyone stop talking? Sonia's sister whispered dramatically. See, terrifying. Even Minyi laughed quietly. But later that night, everything changed. Kevin arrived drunk at the after-party. His business partners followed nervously behind him. Sonia immediately sensed trouble. Kevin stared at her across the crowded lounge. You know what's funny? He said loudly. Several conversations stopped instantly. Vanessa grabbed his arm. Kevin, stop. He pulled away. Everybody's acting like she became some queen overnight. Sonia's expression hardened. Minyi stood silently beside her. Kevin laughed bitterly. You can wear expensive dresses all you want. The room became painfully quiet. But underneath all that, you're still the same fat girl. Sonia froze. Every old wound reopened instantly. The humiliation, the shame, the years of hating herself. Vanessa covered her mouth. Several guests looked horrified. Then Minyi moved. Not violently, not loudly. He simply stepped forward slowly and loosened his tie. The serpent tattoo darkened visibly beneath the lights. Kevin's drunken confidence vanished instantly. The entire room felt colder. Minyi stopped directly in front of him. His voice remained calm. Repeat that. Nobody inside the lounge moved. Nobody even breathed properly. Kevin stared directly at Minyi, but the alcohol confidence draining from his face was obvious now. Because standing this close to Kang Minyi felt different from seeing him across a ballroom. Up close, Minyi's calmness felt dangerous, controlled, like violence was something he never needed to announce. Kevin swallowed hard. Vanessa immediately stepped between them. He's drunk, she said nervously. He doesn't mean it. Minyi's eyes never left Kevin. He said it. Serpent tattoo curled darkly against Minyi's neck as he tilted his head slightly. Sonia could already see panic spreading through the room. Several businessmen quietly moved farther away. One whispered softly, Kevin is finished. Sonia stepped forward quickly before the situation escalated further. Min-Yi. His eyes finally moved toward her, and instantly some of the coldness disappeared. Sonia gently touched his arm. It's not worth it. Min-Yi stayed silent for several long seconds. Then finally he stepped back. The tension in the room loosened immediately. Kevin exhaled shakily, but Min-Yi's next words froze him again. You should be careful what kind of pain you repeat. Kevin didn't answer, because deep down he understood the warning. Minyi took Sonia's hand calmly. Let's go. Just like that, they walked out together, no shouting, no dramatic fight. But somehow that silence terrified Kevin more. The next morning, Kevin woke up to 17 missed calls. His head pounded painfully. Vanessa sat at the edge of the hotel bed, scrolling through her phone anxiously. You need to answer your investors. Kevin rubbed his face. What happened? Vanessa looked at him strangely. You really don't know. His phone immediately rang again, one of his business partners. Kevin answered quickly. What's going on? The man sounded panicked. The contracts are gone. Kevin sat upright. Singapore investors backed out overnight. Kevin's chest tightened. That doesn't make sense. There's more. Something cold moved through Kevin's stomach. The banks froze the expansion account this morning. Kevin stood instantly. Why? Nobody knows. Call came through. Then another, then another. By noon, Kevin's entire business empire had started collapsing. Meetings canceled, investors disappeared, partnerships ended, people stopped answering his calls. Kevin sat alone inside his office staring at the city through shaking hands. Only one name echoed inside his head. Kang Minyi. Meanwhile, Sonia stood quietly beside the large windows inside Minyi's Lagos penthouse suite. She watched rain slide slowly down the glass. "You did something," she said softly. Minyi adjusted his cufflinks calmly. "I made phone calls." Sonia turned toward him. "He's losing everything." Minyi finally looked at her. "He enjoyed humiliating you when he believed there would never be consequences." Sonia stayed silent. Minyi walked closer slowly. "I promised myself something the day I met you." Her chest tightened. "What?" "That nobody would ever make you hate yourself again." Sonia looked down immediately because tears were already forming, not because she felt weak. Because nobody had ever protected her like this before. A knock interrupted the moment. One of Minyi's security men stepped inside. "Mr. Kang, Kevin Ademi is downstairs." Sonia closed her eyes briefly. Of course he was. Minyi's expression didn't change. "Bring him up." Later, Kevin entered the penthouse looking completely different from the confident businessman Sonia once knew. His tie hung loose. Dark circles sat beneath his eyes. Fear followed him into the room. The moment he saw Sonia standing beside Minyi, regret crashed across his face. Kevin looked directly at her. "Sonia, please." She said nothing. Kevin stepped closer desperately. "I know I hurt you." Minyi remained seated silently nearby, watching. Kevin's voice cracked slightly. "I was stupid. I cared too much about status and appearance and what people thought." Sonia folded her arms quietly. "And now," Kevin laughed bitterly. "Now I realize none of those people actually cared about me." The room became quiet. Kevin's eyes filled with desperation. "You did." Sonia stared at him calmly. For years she dreamed about hearing those words, but now they felt empty. Kevin moved closer. "Help me." Sonia blinked slowly. "You only came here because you're losing everything." "That's not true." "It is." Kevin's shoulders dropped because he knew she was right. Sonia looked at him carefully, not with hatred, not even anger, just clarity. "You know the saddest part?" she asked softly. Kevin stayed silent. "I really believed you loved me once." Kevin's eyes lowered immediately. "And maybe you did," Sonia continued. "But your love disappeared the moment other people started watching." The words crushed him. Sonia glanced briefly toward Minyi, then back at Kevin. "He loved me before I learned how to love myself again." Kevin looked completely broken now. And for the first time, Sonia no longer felt broken with him. Minyi finally stood. The room instantly felt smaller. Kevin looked toward him nervously. Minyi's voice remained calm. "You embarrassed her publicly." Kevin swallowed hard. "You made her believe she was difficult to love." Kevin lowered his head. Minyi adjusted his sleeve slowly. "The greatest punishment for men like you is simple." His dark eyes lifted. "You live long enough to watch the woman you destroyed become unreachable." Heavy silence. Kevin looked toward Sonia one final time, but her expression never changed, because the version of herself that once begged for his validation no longer existed. Finally, Kevin turned and walked out slowly, completely alone. Hours later, Sonia stood beside Minyi at the private airport. The massive jet waited beneath the dark Lagos sky while security guards loaded luggage nearby. Warm wind moved softly through Sonia's hair. She stared quietly at the city one last time, the same city where she once cried herself to sleep believing she would never be enough. Minyi stepped beside her. "Regrets?" he asked softly. Sonia smiled slowly. For the first time in years, the smile reached her eyes completely. "Only that I didn't leave sooner." Minyi's hand slid gently into hers, and together they boarded the jet. Far below the runway lights, Lagos continued glowing endlessly into the night. But Sonia no longer felt trapped there, because she finally understood something Kevin never did. Her worth had never depended on who chose her. The jet engines roared to life. And as the aircraft disappeared into the dark sky beside the man who loved her without conditions, Sonia felt something she hadn't felt in years: peace. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below telling us what you would have done if you were Sonia. And if you want more emotional mafia romance stories like this one, stay tuned for the next video.